Hey everyone, welcome back to my channel. Hope everyone is enjoying the 21 degrees, especially if you're in London. It's 21 degrees here, not sure about the rest of the world, but welcome back to my channel. My name is Radhika and I'll be your host for the Women in Property series, which I'm super excited because I'm getting the best of the best women in property sharing their journeys so you can learn from them, reach out to them and learn from everything that they're doing. So today we have a very special guest, Rachel. I've known Rachel for quite a while now during the pandemic, and she has honestly been phenomenal. I'm not sure how she juggles everything, being a model, an accountant, having a social life as well, investing in property and also investing passively into property. So it's actually super interesting because she's come from an investor side, i.e. she's been investing in other projects to make sure that she's finding the right people to work with. So very excited for you to hear. By the way, if you're new to this channel, I will be launching a series of mindset, property and money videos alongside my Women in Property series. So if you are interested, please hit that subscribe button and I'll get straight into this. Hey Rachel, how are you?
I'm good, thank you. How are you doing?
I'm good, thanks. Thanks so much for doing this. I love your story, and I know we've been speaking for quite a while now. But yes, I'd love to just get some questions out to you and just let the audience to get to know you a little bit better. So yeah, great to have you on board.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me. Yeah, I was really happy when you asked me to be on here. So yeah, so to have a chat through everything.
Yeah, perfect. I guess it would just be great for everyone. I'll be surprised if they don't know who you are already, but for anyone who might not know who you are or might not know the basis of what you do, it'd just be great to have a quick introduction.
Yeah, okay. So hi everyone, my name is Rachel. I am a property investor. I'm also a model and social media influencer, and I'm an accountant as well. So there's a little bit of a variety of things that I do there. Yeah.
Perfect. Yeah, I know there's so much to cover, but I kind of want to keep it a little bit property specific, but then also go into the other areas that you're doing. I guess just out of curiosity, where did you start from? I guess where did you how did you get into property, into modeling and the accountancy side as well?
Yeah, so it's all a bit kind of mixed up, to be honest. So with the modeling, I've been a model basically like my whole life. Like I started as a child. I've kind of always done that really. So yeah, I've always kind of had the modeling side, but then I've also always been really interested in finance. Like it's funny because when I was a kid, I was like, okay, when I grow up, I'm either going to be a model or an investment banker. Like that was the thing. I was like, I'm going to do like one or the other sort of thing. So yeah, I kind of always did the modeling. Like property, I think, was something that I always thought was a good idea and that I'd get into. Like my dad did a bit of property. I remember he used to do up the houses that we lived in and all that sort of stuff. And he taught me about finance. So I was always interested in that. I actually got my first 2 flats when I was 19.
Oh wow.
So that was quite a while. It was 11 years ago now. So that was my first kind of insight into sort of doing a little bit of property there. So I did that. Then it was just kind of I had jobs in between. I randomly got as a job as a receptionist, which just so happened to be at an accountancy firm. I literally had no idea what an accountant was at this time. It was when I was 19 as well. So yeah, I just kind of started getting into that there, and then they gave me a bit of bookkeeping work and accountancy work, and I was like, do you know what? I actually quite like this. So that's when I trained to do accountancy. Again, I was still doing modeling, social media and stuff on the side between it all. So yeah, that just did a few sort of jobs in between there like that. And then it was really the beginning of lockdown. So that's when I started up my property investment company, and that's kind of when I suppose properly started doing commercial conversions and the investments that I do now really. But yeah, it's kind of gone back and forth a bit, and then in between there I also mixed property and accounting. I did service charge accounting, had a block management company. So yeah, it's been a little bit all over the place, but I feel like it's finally aligned now where I'm mainly doing property and investing, and then my sort of social media modeling is on the side but sort of related to property and investing now as well.
Yeah, no, definitely. I love how you've linked everything and using your experience. I know there was like a throwback picture, you know, where you have those tabs on your story, and I think you posted one when you were like 10 or something of modeling. And I was like, oh, I didn't actually realize she was like really modeling from a young age. But I love the fact that you've tied everything together. Now, one question I did have, because I thought I was very busy, but how do you have the time to like do everything that you're doing?
Yeah, I mean, I think a lot of it is just outsourcing. You know,
Yeah.
I think probably the same as you. Um, a lot of outsourcing, a lot of having a very good power team. I mean, I think I'm quite good at knowing the stuff that I'm good at and then the things that I don't want to do. And I've always just been quite strict on, like, for me, my time is very important. And I don't think there's any point in me spending, say, loads of time, for example, trying to source property, which I'm rubbish at and I don't like it, when I could just get someone else to do it and make better use of my time, say, doing like the financials or like the bits that I'm good at. So yeah, I'd say like the key to it for me is just having a really, really great team around me, outsourcing everything as much as possible, you know, if I need to. And then that gives me the time to do what I want to do and the bits that I'm best at.
Do you know what? I'm so glad like someone else has said that instead of hearing my own boring voice saying it all the time about finding what you're good at, sticking to it, and then outsourcing the rest. Like you need to find out what you enjoy and what you can actually add value to. There's no point if you can't source properties. Like I definitely do not want to source properties. I'm definitely not going to add any value to there. But just going back to your first two flats, like what did you do to them? Like was there standard buy to let? Did you do them up?
Yeah, I mean, so there wasn't really like a lot done to them really. It was just sort of like, yeah, standard buy to let, like basic, you know, very, very basic bits and pieces done to them. That was also my first experience of kind of like messing around with finance, I suppose. Like we didn't do it right, okay. But it was my first experience of sort of using that. So I remember like one of them we bought cash and then we bought the one below and we were like, how am I going to buy this? And my dad was like, I know, we'll get out a loan for the deposit and we'll get you a mortgage. I was like, right, okay, great, we'll do this. And like obviously, like I think knowing what I know now, I would have done it very, very differently. But I think like at the time, do you know what? It was an experience. And I think like being that age and learning to get a mortgage, or like dealing with bills, stuff like that. And even like dealing with like a leasehold property and, you know, service charges and everything. I am like grateful for that experience. As I say, I would do it totally different now, but I'm kind of glad that happened. And, you know, it's brought me to where I am now, I suppose.
Yeah, exactly. And I feel like everyone makes mistakes in property. Like nothing is ever going to be, you know, 100% how you want it to go. It's what you do with after. And I think, yeah, even I've made like a ton of mistakes. It's just that you keep going and you just make less and less mistakes. And you exactly know what you're going to do. So yeah, I love that. How much of that has really, really helped you go to where you are now and what you're doing now? And what are you doing now in terms of property? Sorry, there's so much in that.
Yeah, so I mean, to be honest, I feel like all of the experience I had, if anything, they teach me sort of what I don't want to do, or the way that I do things, I suppose. So yeah, I mean, I think it was really good because, you know, I made a profit on them and everything, like rented them for a bit, sold them, made a profit, like brought my family home, been able to do other things. So that was all a positive. I mean, I suppose for me, the main negative of it is I'm like, I could have done so much more with that, or like, you know, leverage the money in different ways and all that sort of thing. But ultimately, do you know what? I don't actually feel like that was the time for it necessarily anyway. Yeah. So yeah, I'm happy with, you know, how that's gone really. And with what I'm doing now, that's what you asked of me as well. Yeah. So doing a few bits and pieces at the moment. So you might have seen on social media, I've just finished my first commercial conversion.
Amazing, by the way. Honestly, it looks so good.
Yeah, I've learned so much from that project. That was probably a big one to do as my first kind of commercial conversion. Yeah, but for anyone who hasn't seen that, so that was a beautiful 5-story Victorian building in the centre of Brighton, fully commercial. We've changed it into a 7-bed HMO/holiday let, and we've got the commercial unit there as well. So that's all finished. We're actually selling that one. So yeah, doing that. And then I'm also working with Savoy's Properties, so they're sort of sourcing and building us a portfolio. So I'm doing there, and then can't say too much about it, but I'm also working on an emergency housing project in London. So we're raising £10 million for emergency housing, which is really, really exciting there. And yeah, I do various investments and placing investments for other people and stuff like that, like with other development companies and that kind of thing. So there's, yeah, in terms of the property, there's a few different things going on there.
I mean, I know I asked that question about how you juggle everything. Like, I'm now like, how do you juggle everything? Because now knowing a little bit more, but you know, like you're in the right spaces, you're surrounding yourself with the right people, you've got those opportunities. When you put yourself out there, you've got those opportunities coming, which is great. And for anyone who hasn't seen it, I'll put Rachel's socials link below, but that house is gorgeous. That house is honestly so gorgeous. And the featured wall that you have, oh, honestly, it adds so much character. But yeah, I'm going to start going on about it because I can compliment it all day. But we're just going to go into a quick icebreaker. So I've just got a few questions just at the top of your head. Some of them will be like this or that, and then just a random question in there. So tea or coffee?
Tea. I'm going to go for
tea. Oh, okay. Oh, I thought you were a coffee person. I don't know. That just threw me by surprise. Gym or home workout?
Oh dear. Probably, do you know, I'm going to say home workout. That's probably kind of like going for a walk or like a hike or something like that. But yeah.
Yeah. Okay, perfect. Winter or summer?
Summer, definitely.
Yeah, definitely. Favorite holiday destination?
So for me, this is Los Angeles. That's like my second home. So I don't know if it's really like a holiday, but that's literally like my favorite place to go.
Oh, amazing. I'd be there. It's just, yeah, amazing. I love it. And you get like 365 days of summer. So yeah. And if you could take yourself on a date to anywhere, where would it be? Except for LA.
That's a good question. You know, I think like it would just be somewhere nice, like in nature. Like I like a picnic or just something kind of away from everyone. Like I'm born and raised in, and I just kind of like that whole just being out in nature, just away. And it's like so simple, but like for me, I feel like that's perfect.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. I love that. It's just like be by yourself, no technology, no nothing, just being by yourself. But yeah, moving on back to, I guess, the property side of things. You obviously did a big development project. How did you, is it something that you always wanted to just jump in and go into a big commercial unit, or did you want, I guess you had the experience from the flats, but like what made you just go straight into that big commercial project instead of doing like a smaller HMO or buy-to-let?
Yeah. So I kind of went back and forth with this a lot, I think, when I was researching the best thing to do, I suppose. Do you know what? I don't know. I think for me, it's kind of, I've always wanted, say, like in my portfolio, a smaller amount of properties, but bigger. Yeah. That's just something I always wanted. And when I was looking into like, should I get a whole variety up north or get like a few down here? And I just sort of came to the conclusion that it felt right for me personally, for my lifestyle, what I want, to have less buildings, but down here, I suppose. And yeah, so basically what I did is I essentially just researched and looked up people in my area who were doing what I wanted to be doing, what I was interested in, all that kind of thing. And I think with it being a bigger development, where I'd worked in block management before, I had sort of dealt with this kind of thing, like in a slightly different way, but dealing with like major works and bigger buildings and all that kind of thing. But yeah, so I basically found people who were doing what I wanted to do, and I was like, right, I'm talking to them. So yeah, I got in contact with them, just sort of found out some information, that kind of thing. And then I actually became one of their investors. So that's how I got into it originally. I was like, do you know what, I'm going to sort of like sit on the sidelines, invest, like earn a passive income from investing and learn. So that's kind of what I did there for a few months. And then, yeah, we just sort of really like got to know each other and like really got on well. And then the opportunity for this project, one that I did, came up, and I was just like, do you know what? I'm just going to go for it. Like, yeah, definitely. Yeah. And I think like, it was a little bit of a leap of faith, I suppose. But I think I did obviously mitigate the risk by working with developers who've done like over 400 developments, and I was quite confident, you know, they knew what they were doing. But I was just like, do you know what? I really want to give it a go. So why not? Like, it's, for me, it's the best way to learn. So I just went for it, basically.
Yeah, no, that's amazing, because people who want to get into bigger projects in the commercial side, it's not easy, and it's not kind of the quickest of projects to go for. But the fact that you did something, got yourself in it without tying yourself into it, well, technically you were, but you know what I mean. But just trying to be as proactive as you can, because you get this, you probably get, you know, so many DMs where you're like, how do I get into property? But they're not willing to do anything about it. So what tips would you give to someone who is looking to getting into any sort of property and just being proactive about it?
Yeah, I think just, you know what, sometimes like just be brave with it and like believe that you can do it, and also just really just try to work with the right people. I think you don't have to know everything, like definitely not. I think you just need to make sure that you've got the right people around you who do, I suppose. So for me, you know, like builds and stuff like that, that's not necessarily my thing. My thing is the finance. That's where I've got the expertise. But yeah, just like seek out the people that have the skills that you need, I suppose. Again, look for like a proven track record, all that kind of thing. But yeah, I definitely think like working with other people can help push you forward quicker. I think it can just give you exposure to a lot of things that maybe, you know, you might want to not want to try just by yourself the first time, and you know, that kind of thing. So yeah, that's what I'd say is the start, or just kind of do some like passive investing and like learn along the way and be part of the development maybe to start with, but without it being, you know, your full responsibility. That's also a really good way to start, I think.
Yeah, no, perfect. I think the passive income is so overlooked at, whereas you don't know if you want to go into property. You might just be happy with the passive income and not having to deal with all the tenants and someone buying at the end of it, and when something goes wrong. I think it's so overlooked in terms of the passive opportunities there as well, but also knowing if you definitely want to go into property or definitely don't want to go into property. So yeah, but I think you kind of asked my next question or answered my next question. There's obviously so much due diligence that you're doing when you're looking to work with someone, but what would you say 3 things at the top of your head that you would definitely look for when you're looking to work with someone new?
Yeah, so I think obviously the first thing I'm going to look for is just that they have a proven track record. I think that's quite important to me. I think as an accountant anyway, I will always like look up their accounts. So I'm always doing a lot of like digging around, like what other companies do they have, like what's going on, like do they have money to sort of like back themselves up, especially if I'm investing with them. You know, I want to know if something goes wrong and they can pay me back, like that's important. So yeah, I do like a lot of research around that as much as I can. I think also just like people talk, so just speak to people, get reviews, you know, see what the general gist is from other people who may know them, may have worked with them and heard of them and that sort of thing. And then also, I just think it's about getting to know them, being very honest, and actually see whether there's someone who you want to work with. Because although someone might be amazing at what they do, like really successful, that kind of thing, I think actually if you're doing a JV or you're working closely with someone, you need to get on with them and you need to be able to work with them. Because and I think you know straight away whether it feels right or it doesn't.
Yeah.
But yeah, I'd say they're sort of my top 3 things that I do when I'm choosing to work with somebody.
Yeah, and that's a massive one. The accountancy side is like just making sure that you know how to look up someone's like accounts and making sure that they can back themselves up, but also the synergy that you get. I think you can like easily tell someone's being a bit dodgy and feeling uncomfortable to not work with. Those definitely happened to me, but then there's people like I genuinely like have there's sort of some sort of synergy here, which is like amazing, and you would want to progress like with further conversation. So yeah, that's always good. Yeah. But I guess, and I think
I just don't feel shy to like ask some questions.
Yeah.
So like especially again, probably more like if you're actually investing with someone, but like don't be shy to ask to see like, can I see your bank statements? Can I actually see what you do? Because they shouldn't have anything to hide if they're completely comfortable with it anyway. And I've just found like the people that I work with, they're more than happy to share everything with me because there's nothing to hide there. And they just want to make sure that I'm feeling comfortable and I do exactly the same back for them as well.
Yeah, that's amazing. And for anyone who is like looking to raise finance, like it's so important that you're able to share things, because it can look a bit dodgy if you're like not showing accounts or anything like that. But then on the flip side, if you are investing, like, it's so important to make sure that you've got everything that you need, and no question is a dumb question, I guess. So you've got various different things going on. How have you managed to interlink them all together? Because I know some of the stuff that you're doing in terms of the modeling, influencing side is within financial awareness and property. Like, how are you interlinking everything?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's just sort of like me as a person, you know, these are all my various interests. These are things that I personally do. And I think I've just always shared that. I know some people have like a certain niche and they only share one thing. But for me, I think definitely like as a model and sort of like the influencer side of things on social media, I've had people following me for like 15 years. And they sort of like follow my life and like come along on the journey. So for me, with sort of sharing stuff, I've always just been like, well, I'm just going to share what I'm doing. And it does, of course, it's going to evolve over the time and all that kind of thing. And I think, yes, obviously, since I've done more like accountancy and then like property and stuff like that, that's just something that I've shared. And I feel like it's kind of naturally just sort of merged together, really. I mean, even things like, so I used to do like advertising campaigns on Instagram, and like it used to be fashion or, you know, whatever I was doing at the time. And then like, with my property development, we've got a collaboration for the mural you might have seen inside. So that was actually a brand collaboration. And so I've just kind of moved it over, really. I suppose it's just like my life, and that's what it is. So I just share it, really. And yeah, I love to talk about finance and all that kind of thing. So again, with the videos, that's what I do there. And I think it's important for people to know, like, you can do both. I know it probably sounds really crazy, and they're like such different ends of the scale, you know, like doing modeling, like finance and all that sort of thing. But yeah, like you definitely, you can do it all, and it does work.
Yeah, amazing. And the one thing that I definitely picked up on is, even though it's all similar, there's massive diversification there. So, you know, you can tap into different things. Like, how important is having that diversification for you?
Yeah, I think it is. And I just think, like, overall, I mean, like, we all do sort of property and stuff, don't we? But I feel like investing can be very, very broad. And to me, very much about a lifestyle. So for me, I've got a certain lifestyle that I like to live that you'll see, and investing enables me to do that. I just think, like, as I said, that's something that I like to sort of share with everyone, and for everyone to know, like, you don't have to love property to invest in property. I think it's a good asset to invest in. And you might see sort of some of my clients who are like models or streamers, musicians, like all that kind of thing. I help them invest as well. Just to sort of help them be a little bit more passive, have like a lifestyle that they want, but they have no interest in property, essentially. I think it's just something that can sort of work for all of us, really.
Yeah, amazing. I love that you're helping other people as well, especially like when it's not taught. And I've heard like on multiple occasions where people in like the music industry or modeling industry, when they're earning like a lot of money, or they've got these big paychecks coming in, there's no financial advice given to them. And it's so important that they understand what they need to do with their money, whether it's budgeting or like saving for the future or anything like that. So I love the fact that like there's people out there like helping people just to be a bit more knowledgeable anyway in that space. So yeah, it's amazing. I
just think it's not something that we ever learn. I think like it's not something that we saw or anything like that. And I think it's important. I think it can be quite daunting because, you know, as I say, for like models and anything like that, we can earn quite a lot of money like young, and it's like, what do we do? And then it suddenly stops. So that's something that I'm very passionate about, just with like all my girls who I do accounts for. I'm just like, look, what do you want to be doing in 10 years? How do you see this money? Like, what's your plan? Because I think for most of us, it's quite short-lived. I mean, like, I'm 30, so like my modelling is sort of basically done. Like, I do bits and pieces here and there, but not really. It's just knowing that there is a way to transition from one career into another.
It's never too late.
Exactly. Yeah.
Okay, perfect. So just going into a second icebreaker, reading or podcasts?
Podcasts, I'm going to say.
I'm actually moving on to podcasts now, but what's your favorite podcast? Like, what's the one that you always go to every time it comes out?
Yeah, probably the Diary of a CEO at the moment. I really, really enjoy that one.
I know. I'm literally obsessed, and now he's got a Thursday one coming out, and they're the 2 days I commute into the office. So I'm like, commute is sorted for me. I've just lost my list. Favorite type of design for your house, or like for any HMOs that you do?
I think so I like quite a simple design. I think I really like sort of black and white, sort of like monochrome in general. But then I like to add pop of color with like artwork or like pillows and like all that sort of thing. Really, I think you'll see from the one I've done, it's sort of like it's quite basic, but then there's just sort of like bits of color, like we have with the mural and stuff like that, just to mix it up a little bit.
I was gonna say that's literally what you've just done in the project.
Yeah.
Would you prefer a big development project or a small development project, i.e. like a buy-to-let or a less than 6-bed HMO?
Big one, I think.
Yeah, I thought you were going to say that.
Yeah, I do prefer them, I think.
One thing you've learned about yourself during the pandemic? Sorry, some of these are a bit random and like at the top of your head.
Yeah, it's like I'm very determined. Like if I want something, I will make it happen somehow.
Yeah, there's no excuse, right?
Yeah.
And then one thing you're looking forward to this year?
Forward to this year. I think just having a bit of a portfolio, I think actually just, sort of finally having that portfolio, which I'm gonna have this year. So that's gonna be good.
If you were allowed to say, how many projects would you typically like want to work on this year?
I would say at least 4.
At least 4. But these are big projects, so like 4 sounds a lot.
Yeah. But I mean, I do have the capacity for more. It just depends. I mean, to be honest, It seems to be hard to get the projects. Like that's a difficult thing, which is funny because I always thought like, oh, but the money's going to be hard to get, and then I've had the money and had the investors for a while, and they're like, where's the project? We do it. So it's funny. It's actually going a little bit backwards to what I expected.
Really? Oh, yeah. No, I guess partnering with other people who can help in that space, have the contacts, etc., does help. But yeah, like that's interesting because even I'm struggling to find good deals at the moment. The money's there. It's just, so where's the next deal without it being like too like average? If that makes sense. There's no point. Like for me, it's like I want to find the right deal. I'm not in a rush to find it. And I don't know if you're in a similar space, but it needs to be the right deal.
Yeah, absolutely, definitely. And I think so. This is the thing with doing bigger projects, is that, like that one bigger project could be the same as say doing 10 smaller ones. And I think that's just where, bearing in mind, because someone's like, oh no, haven't got a project or something like that. But I'm like, actually, the one of them is going to be quite large.
Yeah.
So
and that's worth waiting for, isn't it?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Yeah. So you've had 11 years of property experience. What are 3 tips that you could say to anyone that you've learned? Like, what are the 3 top tips? I don't even know what I was trying to ask there, but hopefully you got that question. What are the top 3 tips that you've learned?
I think a lot of my learning has come from my first commercial conversion. Like there's a lot of things went wrong with that, essentially. I've had a lot of learning from there. So right, first tip I would say is have your own money to back yourself up. Like you can have deals with none of your own money in. I have done it. You definitely can, but I think it is very, very important to have your own funds if something goes wrong. That would be number 1 because of what happened to my project, which we can go into a bit more detail if you want to that. Again, just like have a really strong network around you to help, like have all the experts to ask everything. And thirdly, I just think don't get distracted by what other people are doing as well. I think it's quite important to sort of stay on track because there's so many different strategies and a lot of them are good, But yeah, I think just try and stay on track. And for me, it always goes back to, again, like the lifestyle. Do I want to have lots of stress doing like all these bits and pieces or having loads of properties? No, I don't. That's why I choose to do what I do.
Yeah.
If you can, you know, take inspiration from other people, but try and stay focused.
I love those three because they're simple as well. Like they're simple to action and it's not too much. But yeah, I love all of those three. But the first one, and like I've always said this, like people who say that, oh, you can invest in none of your own money and stuff, but you need money to back up. Like imagine you going to an investor and saying, hey, I want to invest in your project, but they've got none of their own funds. Like it doesn't make sense to me. But also just to get the experience that you've already done it, and that you can prove to yourself that you can do it as well and prove to everyone else that you can do it. So yeah, massive one for me is like, it's just marketing gimmick. Whilst people do it, yeah, each to their own. But yeah, that's just my 2 cents in it. Did you say your first project, I know you have loads of learning. Did you want to get into, do you want to talk about it?
Yeah, I can give you an overview because I just think it's good. It's
a
good learning. So so with my first commercial conversion, a big issue we had with it is our bridge fell through 5 days before completion, and we had already extended the completion date. We'd obviously already exchanged, and all that kind of. Also, like this, bear in mind, this is my first ever experience of bridging and development finance as well. So yeah, obviously that was very stressful. Like, so my first commercial project, issues with planning. As I say, bridge and development finance fell through. We did a crowdfunding raise on that one as well. We had private investors, so it was like a lot of learning in one. And again, so that's where I was like, do you know what? It's so important that we had our own money, because when you're buying something which is 700,000, you think you've got all the money, and then 5 days before, actually, no, you don't. That can be very stressful.
Yeah.
Because I was thinking, like, we're going to lose a deposit. You know, this is going to go horribly wrong. So yeah, I'm just glad that we managed to get the money together somehow to get it over the line. But yeah, I think it was just something that I didn't expect was going to happen. And it was, I suppose, looking back at it now, it was a very good learning experience for me.
Yeah.
And I think it's one of those things that you can never know that this is going to happen. I mean, as I say, like my business partners on that, they've done over 400 developments. This has only happened to them once or twice ever. And I think, like, no matter how many you do, these can happen occasionally. And I just think it's important to understand that.
Oh wow, yeah. I don't even know how you got through that, but do you know what? When you are so desperate in that situation, you'll do anything to make it work, and you made it work. So there's always backup opportunities. It's just got to be in that frame of mind to like think about it. But I'm glad you got finance and sorted that project out. My first experience of bridging, I think 2 or 3 days just before completion, they downvalued the property by £10,000 and asked us to put in an extra £10,000. And then you're just like, I know that's a very small amount, but we were like, but we're going to use that for development finance and like all of this other stuff. But 2 days literally, or 2 or 3 days literally before completion. So yeah, but then you're already stuck in the deal as well because you've exchanged. So
I think this is sort of kind of similar to what we had. So it was like, you know, they were saying, oh, it's absolutely fine. And this was the other thing. I was like, why would you say it's fine if it's not?
If it's not, yeah.
Stand. So I think it was that, you know, it was 700,000 to buy it, and then like a few days before, they were like, actually no, we think it's worth like 250. And I'm like, well, it's not, because you can't even get a flat here. I don't know where you.
Yeah.
But yeah, and I think it's just, yeah, like just understanding this process, because obviously like bridging, it's unregulated really, isn't it? And it's very, very different, I think, compared to say when you just buy a property normally and you get a mortgage. And you get your mortgage offer, and usually they'll definitely give you that once you put your mortgage offer. They're not going to sort of change it last minute. But yeah, with private investors and bridging and stuff, like it can happen. And I think just people need to be aware of that.
Yeah, no, complete. Yeah, there's so much into it, but when it goes well, it really does go well. And when you definitely need it with these complex projects that you do, like anyone's doing, it's definitely like worth looking into. But just know the pitfalls that can happen with it.
options. So like for me now, when I go to buy something, I've got at least 3 options for finance. Now I'll have my preferred one, 100% private investor. Ideally, that would be my number one. And then I've got kind of other options to go with that, because this has happened. The last option would always be, okay, if something falls through, have we got our own funds that we can put in to pay for it? And that's sort of like the last resort, I suppose.
Yeah, no, yeah, most definitely. One thing I did want to touch on, I know you have quite a few investors, and you're very, what's the word? Like, you pick the right people to work with. I know you don't work with everyone. I guess, like, how do you find investors, and how do you choose who to work with?
So this is quite an interesting one, because I got investors accidentally, actually. I was actually looking for investors. So as I say, so when I started out doing this, I was an investor myself. So what I was sharing, like, this is what I've bought, this is what I'm investing in, I'm happy with it, this is the return I'm getting. And I was like, do you know what, that's what I'm going to do. And then it sort of happened randomly in turn from that. I had people being like, oh, actually, no, I want to invest. I want to do what you're doing. And that's how I've got one of my biggest contacts who gets the majority of my money, because when I posted that I bought my project, he messaged me and he was like, I've got people who want to replace your money in that, like, can we? And I was like, do you know what? Yeah, why not? But yeah, I think it's just something that kind of happened accidentally. And I think because I invest myself, I share that, and I think in turn sort of people want to get involved. Because it's a difficult one with raising money sometimes, I think, because you don't always want to just sort of straight up like ask people for money, but then I think when you can kind of share what you do yourself, you've got the proof there. I think actually investors kind of follow. I think once you've worked with some, they recommend you. That's something I found as well. And I think with people who I will and I won't work with, I think I just want to make sure that they understand what they're getting into. I think if this is like your life savings, I'd probably recommend that you don't invest it all. Or I just think it's important that they they understand. There's always some element of risk with it, and I just want to make sure they're comfortable with that, because although it can be an amazing way to have a passive income sort of thing, I don't want someone to like invest all their money and then something goes wrong and like they need it back or that kind of thing. So I think it's just like really vetting them and making sure that this is the right option for them.
Yeah, perfect. I love that as well. And it's also, you have enough education behind yourself to kind of really go into, well, this is what I've seen with my experience as well, which massively like is a tick box for anyone who is looking to invest in you, because you've been the investor, you've got the accountancy side, you understand the numbers, you're helping other people invest as well, which is like amazing. So yeah, you definitely got like the credibility within that, but it's also important for you to know what type of investor that you want to, and you're like in this fortunate position where you can kind of pick and choose who you want to work with, which is everyone's ideal scenario. So yeah, but no, thank you so much for coming on board. Sorry we ran over a little bit, but yeah, hopefully everyone enjoyed this. If they want to reach out to you, which I'm sure they'll probably have 1,000,001 questions, and sorry for the incoming DMs, where can they find you?
Message me on LinkedIn, Rachel C on there, or across my social media platforms. So maybe put a link, because I've got the CSEE Investments, I've got RJ Land and Development. They're probably the two that are better to message me on rather than my Rachel. Just on socials, that's absolutely fine. Perfect.
I'll put them below, and I'll put an Instagram post up and tagging you in them so they can easily find you. You have your own YouTube channel as well.
Yes, I do really need to film more for that. I do, and I've shared sort of the progress of my project on there and stuff like that, and we've got a few other things coming up. I'll send you a link for that as well.
I'll put that in the box below. But yeah, thank you so much. Have a great rest of the day.
Thank you for having me.